She slammed that violation notice on my windshield like she was stamping out a bug and said flatly, "Your daughter's been recorded again. Second offense." She called it. That was the moment my chest went tight, and I realized this wasn't going to fade away quietly. A grown woman with power in the HOA had been pointing cameras at my 12-year-old girl by the pool, saving those images and weaponizing them against us. And somehow, she thought I wouldn't fight back. My name's Ethan Reed. I've lived in Maple Ridge Estates for 10 years. A quiet cul-de-sac in California with neatly trimmed hedges and neighbors who smile just enough to hide their fear of standing out. I came here because I wanted safety for my daughter, Emma. After losing my wife, Becky, to cancer 4 years ago, that pool, our community pool, wasn't just chlorinated water and cracked tiles. It was where Becky painted the lifeguard bench blue, where Emma learned to float, where she whispered her last goodbye to her mom. That place was supposed to be sacred. And now, the HOA president, Linda Hayes, had turned it into a hunting ground for control. When I saw the violation notice, my eyes didn't go to the words. They went to the image. A zoomed-in photo of Emma adjusting her towel, time-stamped to the minute. Steady frame, no distortion. That wasn't a casual security snapshot. That was surveillance. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I know the smell of digital fingerprints the way a mechanic knows the sound of a busted carburetor. The metadata in that file didn't match the HOA's system. There was a microphone ping buried in the stream. Our HOA doesn't have audio. That meant Linda was using her own devices, hidden ones. I tried to keep my face steady when I told Emma, "This one's not about you, sweetheart. It's about what someone else did." But she had already read the letter. She muttered, "I didn't even get in the pool this time." And I clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles cracked. The next morning, I walked into the HOA meeting. These things were usually half-asleep affairs, donuts on flimsy paper plates, retirees nodding off in folding chairs. But Linda always treated them like her stage. That night, she was in full performance mode, talking about rising safety concerns and unsupervised minors. She said, "Visual-only surveillance is permitted under state law." The way she leaned on the phrase "visual only" made my stomach churn. I stood and asked, "Can you clarify if the footage used for these violations came from HOA-approved hardware?" Silence. She smiled, flipped through her binder, and finally said, "Anyone uncomfortable may submit a privacy review form." I asked, "Do you have one right now?" She froze for just half a second before muttering, "No." A dad across the room chuckled under his breath. A mom whispered, "Typical." And for the first time, the cracks in Linda's porcelain mask showed. But I walked out of that meeting with something heavier than anger. Doubt. Sitting on my porch with that second citation in my hand, stamped child endangerment, parental neglect. My throat closed. Maybe she was right. Maybe I should have been there at the pool every single second. Maybe I had failed Emma, failed Becky's memory. For one dark moment, I felt like putting my head down and letting Linda win. At least then, Emma wouldn't see her dad drag through the mud in front of the neighbors. That doubt almost swallowed me. Almost. Until Miguel, my neighbor, knocked on my door. He handed me a letter, just like mine. His supposed violation? Installing a security camera on his own garage. Another dad got cited for his son wandering too close to the gate. A mom was warned because of her daughter's swimsuit color. It clicked in my head. Linda wasn't protecting anyone. She was building a wall of paper, stacking citations until everyone bent under her control. And that was the moment I stood back up. I dug deeper. I pulled apart the violation email headers, traced the shortened Google Drive token. And there it was, her personal Gmail account linked to a private cloud folder. Dozens of subfolders, each named after families in our neighborhood, each holding still shots of kids, tying shoes, drying off, riding bikes, innocent moments, but saved under their names. The access logs made my blood run cold. 3 IP addresses had viewed them. One right here in Maple Ridge, one across the state, one as far as Arkansas. These weren't locked away. They were public, at least for a time. I didn't take the images. I'm a father, not a monster. I screenshotted the metadata, the logs, the timestamps. That was enough. Enough to prove Linda wasn't sloppy. She was calculated. Then one night, Jenna Morales, one of the newer board members, showed up at my door in jeans and a hoodie, her hands shaking. "I can't stay quiet anymore," she whispered. She handed me a flash drive. On it were audio recordings, Linda bragging during board sessions about using the pool as behavioral leverage, calling kids bold for their age, and saying the photos were for persuasion. Persuasion. That word cut through me like a blade. Jenna had a daughter, too, 6 years old. She admitted she'd signed reports without knowing the source of the images. Guilt was eating her alive. "I'll speak," she said, "if you promise to make it public when the time is right." I promised, and for the first time, I knew I wasn't alone. I didn't rush to confront Linda. Rage wasn't my weapon. Timing was. I designed a flyer with nothing but metadata screenshots and a QR code to a folder labeled Surveillance Abuse Pack. No names, no images, just proof. At dawn, I slipped them under windshields of minivans with car seats, posted them in the parents' group online, and waited. By lunch, the HOA sent out a frantic email reminding us recordings were for security only. Too late. The fuse was lit. Rachel Stone, a local reporter, met me at a coffee shop. I gave her the logs, the audio, and Jenna's pledge to testify. She asked, "Do you want a full piece or a fast headline?" I said, "Fast." I want it out the second she tries to push her new surveillance vote. The night of the board meeting. The clubhouse was standing room only. Parents pressed shoulder to shoulder. Phones ready. Whispers buzzing. I sat in the second row again, same as before. But this time Jenna was beside me. Blazer on, her jaw set. Linda swept in wearing coral pink and a gold watch, smiling like she still owned the place. She called the meeting to order, pitched her upgrade to install playground cameras and license plate scanners, then moved straight to vote. That was when Jenna stood. "I have a statement." Her voice carried like a crack of thunder. She laid it out. The private folders, the unauthorized emails, the metadata trails. The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, a mom yelling. "That's my kid," Linda snapped. "Sit down." But Jenna said, "Not anymore." I rose slowly, held up the flash drive. "This is every action you've taken for the past year. Verified. Time-stamped. Archived. You forwarded images of children from your personal Gmail. You stored them in a public cloud with no encryption. That's not security. That's abuse." The crowd surged. Parents shouted, "We trusted you!" One dad in a denim jacket stepped into the aisle, arms crossed, glaring at Linda. She turned to the board members for backup, but one woman finally spoke, voice shaking. "I move to suspend Vice President Hayes, pending review." Another chimed in, "Seconded." 3 votes against 1. The gavel came down. Linda's face drained of color. She stammered, "You don't have the authority." I built this board. And I told her quietly, no, you built a machine. We just turned it off. Two hired security guards stepped forward. Ma'am, please come with us. She tried to smile, to salvage dignity, but as she passed me, she whispered, this isn't over. I didn't flinch. Yes, it is. The doors closed behind her. The air shifted. Applause rolled through the room. Not wild cheers, but steady clapping that felt heavier than any gavel. For the first time in years, Linda wasn't the one pulling the strings. She was gone. And the silence she left behind was louder than all her rules combined. Walking home that night, the houses looked different. Same hedges, same porches. But the fear was gone. Neighbors stood in clusters, heads bent over flyers, murmuring about rewriting policies from scratch. And me, I just breathed. Emma could swim again without someone's lens hovering over her shoulder. That's what this whole war had been about. Not HOA politics, not citations, but one kid's right to be a kid. And if you take anything from my story, let it be this. In a neighborhood where silence was the weapon, speaking up saved us. Because, at the end of the day, the truth always finds daylight. And that's the heart of every story told on HOA Drama Unfolded.